Well, I expect that most people watching this video are going in with no idea what this game is. There's going to be a decent chunk who are going, "Yes, he finally reached Kawa no Nushi Tsuri." This is a game with a fairly sizable cult following. And while this game never came to the US, several of the many sequels did under variations of the title River King. I'd never call the game popular, but it definitely has fans. Kawa no Nushi Tsuri is a fishing RPG. Your goal is to fish, and the main loop of the game is that you catch fish so that you can sell them to buy better equipment so you can catch better fish. But there's also random encounters with wildlife, you level up as you fight things, and there's even dungeons. This is a game that takes RPG concepts and moves them to a pastoral setting, and the result is a really pleasant little game. The story of the game is that your sister is sick, and the only thing that could possibly cure her is the flesh of the River King, a spiritual fish that dwells somewhere in the river that you live on. So your goal is to become a good enough fisherman to catch the River King and bring it back to her. You start out in a town that looks an awful lot like a standard RPG town, and as you might expect, hitting A brings up a menu. But the options here don't really line up with your standard RPG menu. Starting in the upper left, you have your bait, and then below that you have your fishing gear. Then you have the command to talk to people. Then on the right-hand side, you have the option to eat something, which is how you recover health, the fish that you have on you, and finally an option to use special items that you've collected. A lot of the game's progress is locked behind those special items, which you have to buy from shops. Though by talking to someone in the first town, you get some glasses that will let you find bait on the ground. It seems to be more successful when you're almost out. In town, you'll find an inn where you can recover your health, a shop where you can get more fishing equipment, and a fishmonger who buys whatever you haul out of the river. The other important thing in town are these Jizo statues, which give you the 44-character password for the game. It only uses numbers, but that is still a huge password. When you step out of town, you'll find yourself on the banks of an enormous river. You can wander freely up and down it. While you're outside of town, you can be confronted by wildlife, and here you choose to attack, eat something to recover, or run away. If you choose to attack, then you'll see this dot that bounces around the enemy. Hit the A button when the dot is on the enemy and you'll do damage. Otherwise, you'll miss them. Defeating enemies is how you earn experience points and build up your health, so you don't want to ignore it altogether. And if you're knocked out by an enemy, you wake up in town and you haven't lost anything. Not even the fish that you were carrying. The real point of this game is the fishing though, so let's get to that. You walk up to a riverbank and hit B to pull out your rod. You can hit the A button to bring up the menu, and that's how you'll change out your bait or equipment. It's especially necessary right after you've lost a fish, because it usually will take your hook and bait with it. When you're selecting bait, there will be an asterisk next to any bait that will be effective in that area. So if you don't see anything that would be effective, you'll probably want to move. As a general rule, fishing near rocks and other features on the river is more effective. Once you have your bait and hook selected, hit B to cast the line. You'll get a close-up picture of your bobber, and if you see bubbles in the river, that means that the fish are there and biting. Watch for the bobber to get pulled underwater until there's just a thin line left. Then hit B to set that hook. From here, you're fighting with the fish, and hitting B will reel it in. You can also press up and down to select on the menu that you want to let it go, but you probably don't want to do that. If the fish gets to the upper left-hand corner, you've pulled it in all the way and caught it. If it gets all the way to the lower right-hand corner, it's probably gotten away. Holding down B while the fish is fighting back will stress your line, and that could cause it to break and the fish to get away. There isn't any really good feedback on when you should be reeling in or not. So what I did was feather the button until the fish wasn't fighting back anymore, then hold down B to pull it in as far as I could until it started fighting. Early on, you can only really consistently land small fish. And if you do land one, you get your hook and bait back. You can hook larger fish, but what I found generally happens is that they immediately pull down to the bottom right, and don't let you have a chance to reel them in. I did get lucky on occasion, but until you've upgraded your equipment and leveled up quite a few times, you're probably going to want to stick to the basic type of fish. If a fish gets away, then you lose a hit point, so you'll want to keep an eye on your strength as you're fishing. And that's how the game works. You catch your fish, you take them back to town to sell them, and maybe buy some additional equipment. Whether it's a better pole, a basket that'll hold more fish, or lines and hooks that can take more stress. As you move through the game, you'll go up and down the river, finding additional towns, and of course you can get better equipment as you go through. As mentioned, Kawa no Nushi Tsuri spawned a huge series, but this was the only Famicom entry in it. The Famicom version's oddly difficult to find. It's not fantastically expensive, you could expect to pay about 3,000 yen for a copy, but you don't see many copies floating around. This game was remade for the PC Engine CD-ROM, so there's an enhanced remake available. My personal feelings here are that it's an interesting start to a series, but the sequels improve on it so much I'd rather play those instead. It is the best fishing game on the Famicom though. I just wish that the fishing had a little bit more to it.